The rivalry between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics has unquestionably defined a huge part of the NBA's legacy. 33 championships, including 12 decided against one another, with so many of the league's all-time greatest players having worn either the purple and gold or green and white. The names on the jerseys may change, and the two storied franchises may not always be on top of the league, but as their recent clash demonstrated, the rivalry is always there. There's always a sense of history when the Lakers and Celtics meet. As such, it's only appropriate that the Lakers and Celtics rivalry has also played a significant role in the history of NBA video games. The NBA Live series officially begins with NBA Live 95, but traces its heritage back to EA's NBA Playoff series, which began in 1989 with Lakers vs Celtics. The game was released for both PC and Sega Genesis, with an unreleased PAL version developed for the Sega Mega Drive, but today we're mostly going to focus on the PC version. Officially titled Lakers vs Celtics on the NBA Playoffs, the game features real NBA teams and players, including the big names of the day: Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Patrick Ewing, Isaiah Thomas, and even future holdout Michael Jordan. Unlike later games, Lakers vs Celtics only features 8 of the 16 teams from the 1989 playoffs, at least in the original MS-DOS release, while the Genesis version features 8 teams from the 1990 postseason. No regular season mode was available, only exhibition play and an abbreviated playoff tournament, which could only be played on the maximum Showtime difficulty. The East and West All-Stars were also included, which allowed gamers to play with some of the stars whose NBA teams weren't available to play with normally. These players included Hakeem Olajuwon, Reggie Miller, Dominic Wilkins, and in the original DOS version, Charles Barkley. Stars had signature moves such as Kareem's Skyhook, and players could be distinguished by differing heights and facial features such as goggles. There are oddities of course, such as John Stockton having blonde hair, and it can be a little hard to tell who's who without seeing the jersey number, which is only visible when a player is facing directly towards or away from the camera. In the DOS version, the camera doesn't follow the ball as in the Genesis version, but instead features a cut to the other half of the court upon crossing the timeline. In lieu of a player indicator, the player you're currently controlling is designated by their uniform turning black. This can be a little confusing, as an opponent with the ball will also be highlighted in black, even if you're playing the CPU, and even if the CPU is on defense. It's functional though, and like a lot of old sports games, you've got to look at the aesthetics through the lens of the era. In their day, the graphics were more than satisfactory. The Genesis version, it should be noted, does look better. Lakers vs Celtics can still be fun to play today, but needless to say, it's very primitive. The controls are basic. There are buttons for shoot and pass, which, obviously, shoot the ball and pass it while on offense. On defense, these turn into a combined block and steal button and switch player control respectively. It's a little clunky, but it works. There's no turbo or sprint control however, which makes driving and eluding defenders tricky, and the game pace a little slow. The camera cuts in the PC version make it tough to run fast breaks properly, since you can't throw a long pass into the front court, and players do tend to run up the floor in a pack anyway. As you might expect, there's less basketball strategy and more finding out which spots you can score from consistently. There are timeouts however, and you can sub in players. The NBA rules are mostly accounted for, though all fouls actually result in free throws, and there's no special free throw mechanic. The signature moves are fun though, and it's satisfying to throw down a big dunk. Most rebounds are flat-footed and blocking takes very precise timing, but the game is still playable, at least for short periods of time. The clock is accelerated so you can get through games quickly, though the 24-second shot clock is also sped up and not displayed on the screen. As such, you need to be quick about getting into your offense to avoid a violation. A lot of the early sim-oriented basketball games don't hold up as well as arcade titles like NBA Jam, and that's true of Lakers vs Celtics as well. With that being said, you can certainly appreciate the game's legacy. Including real teams and players was a big deal. Later games in the NBA Live series didn't include signature moves for many years, but they were a staple of the NBA Playoffs titles. The fictional Electronic Arts Sports Network branding notably made its debut in Lakers vs Celtics, adding a level of authenticity and style to the presentation, especially in the Genesis version, despite not being a real television network. EA Sports would of course go on to become the brand and division of Electronic Arts that develops all their sports titles. Following Lakers vs Celtics, the NBA Playoff series continued with Bulls vs Lakers, Bulls vs Blazers, and the spin-off Team USA Basketball, which I've covered in a previous video. The games featured new additions here and there, such as instant replay, cooperative play, custom teams, and in the series' final game, NBA Showdown, all current NBA teams. However, there wasn't a significant improvement in gameplay or the general experience from year to year. That wouldn't come until NBA Live 95, but that impressive leap is a topic for another time. Although it's been fast surpassed by its successors, even those that came within a decade of its release, Lakers vs Celtics is undeniably a classic. It has an enduring legacy with basketball and sports gamers, and its connection to the Lakers-Celtics rivalry no doubt plays a role in that, as the game's name and title screen came up more than once when the two teams finally squared off again in the 2008 finals, almost 20 years after the game's release. He played a role in developing the EA Sports brand and paved the way for the early success of the NBA Live series. Its variable difficulty levels, quarter lengths, and even simulation and arcade settings all became staples of future basketball games. If you grew up with some of the earlier basketball video games, like Lakers vs Celtics in the NBA playoffs, you might enjoy dusting it off once in a while for a bit of nostalgia. If you picked up basketball gaming in the past 10 to 15 years, it's probably going to have slightly less appeal. Nevertheless, it stands as one of the first true NBA sims and a quality basketball video game for its time. Primitive as it may seem now, it pioneered many aspects of basketball gaming that we now take for granted. It put the NBA in gamers' hands, celebrating Showtime and Celtic pride on the virtual hardwood. Thanks for watching this retrospective of Lakers vs Celtics and the NBA playoffs. Be sure to subscribe for more videos and check out the NLSC at nba-live.com for more basketball gaming content.